What's going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia here with yet another exciting episode. In this episode, we're going to be joined with Tom from Airbotics, Vice President of Airbotics. And today we're going to be talking about some new equipment and some new technology that really you should be considering heavily to have on your trucks ready to deploy on, if not all of your job site, 99% of your job sites. Tom's going to talk about all the new technologies, the attention to detail to their new equipment, which has recently been rolled out into the industry. And this is something that I think come over the next few months, potentially few years. I think that this is going to be a staple on every single restoration truck out there because of its technology, because of the overall impact that it has on each and every single job site, as well as the overall efficiencies that this equipment provides. So without further ado, let's jump into the show and let's have some fun.
Welcome to the Restoration Domination Podcast, where you learn actionable advice that moves the needle and helps service-based businesses dominate. Here's your host, Rico Garcia Jr.
What is going on, Dominators? Rico Garcia with yet another exciting episode. Tom, first and foremost, man, welcome to the show. Are you ready to help us dominate?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Do me a favor, fill in some of the gaps on the intro for those that may not be familiar with the name or with the organization. Tell us exactly who it is that you are and what your company does for the industry.
So my name is Tom McArdle. We're with Airbotics. Airbotics is a new company that's coming out with a machine for odor elimination, but we have been in the industry for 15 years, working with odorox and hydroxyl machines, large losses, commercial, residential, just helping across the board. So we decided a couple years ago to kind of create the newest invention of making it a little better. So that's what we got started with, and we just launched it. So we're excited.
That's awesome. Just talk to us a little bit about, because there's a lot of equipment in the industry. I mean, this is an equipment heavy industry. For those contractors that are out there and they're like, man, there's so much variety. We're going to talk about another piece of equipment. Like, what really set you guys apart from, some of the other pieces of equipment that people may have been using, or maybe they're considering to adding certain pieces of equipment to their arsenal? What really sets you guys apart?
Yeah, of course. So basically what this technology does is it combines two very powerful technologies that are common in the industry. So we have UVC, which creates hydroxyl radicals and other oxidants. So that's going to be for the gases, the VOCs, anywhere where there's an odor issue to eliminate it, whether it's in the air, structures, contents that have absorbed it. The UVC is going to handle that part of it. And then we have also on the intake of the machine, we have MERV8 pre-filters and HEPA filters. So that'll capture all the solid particulates. So I personally have been in the industry for about 15 years, used to be with the odorox hydroxyl machines, very, very familiar with all that. And I've always said that scrubbers and hydroxyls are perfect teammates. They work so well together. One captures the solids, one handles the gas. They always go well together. And so what we decided to do is kind of put them together in one machine. So that way you've got one machine to store in the warehouse, one machine to load up in the truck, and one machine to bring on the job. And you're going to tackle two different parts of the project. Like I said, handling the particulates that are going through the air, and then dealing with the gases, VOCs, because you have the UVC kind of hydroxyl portion to it. So, that combination is pretty strong. And then, of course, we listened to what all the contractors have said for so long about additional features that they want in the machine. So even it might seem like little things, but, wheels and a handle and stackable and GFCI outlets and long power cord, all those types of things were all kind of built into it. So we think it's going to be a very effective and friendly machine to use.
Yeah, it's funny that you say the little things, right? But a lot of times the little things for a contractor and or for your staff really makes all the difference in the world. I mean, there's tons of great equipment, but the power cord's sometimes too short. And you're like, what a pain, right? Or, it doesn't have a handle, and, you got your guys like lugging this stuff up, and it's like, really just like a couple of wheels, like you couldn't manage a couple of wheels, like, like did no one during test production, like, kind of try to lug these things around? But those small little things really do make a huge difference, on a job site. And again, it's just those small little things are the ones that sometimes make things effective and efficient. And just kind of talking about efficiency, for me, I always like to tie things into profitability, right? Whether that is a direct line item that we can plug into Xactimate or Symbility or whatever, estimating software it is that you use to increase your overall profitability and or increase efficiency, which in turn increases your profitability, even though there may not be a direct correlation to a specific line item. How do you see this equipment once it's adopted and it's on, hopefully on every truck that's doing any kind of restoration? How do you see this equipment impacting profitability and efficiency?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple different answers. I mean, it's such a good question. The quick, easy answer is obviously you've got, the Xactimate line items. You've got the 3-optic hydroxyl generator, you get the 2-optic hydroxyl generator. This particular machine that we created has 4 UVC lamps inside. It does have a built-in fan, so it's a little different, a little bigger, a little more involved than what's in Xactimate right now. But certainly there's a line item for that. Of course, you've got the scrubbers, which everyone's familiar with. I mean, we have a 700 CFM fan built into it. So there's that component of billing. We're working with a company now to kind of help develop how contractors can easily not only bill, but then obviously collect for this type of technology, because there really hasn't been anything like it before, where you've got 2 different kind of essentially line items built into one machine. So they're going to help us with having that be accepted so that it can be easier for contractors to accept the payment, to collect their payment when they do it. Then there's also the side of things where a lot of contractors see this technology, it like really works. It's kind of crazy sometimes, but when it comes to odors, it's such a subjective issue. And sometimes you don't know what the odor is. Sometimes you don't know where it may be. Sometimes it's absorbed into some very soft items where it's hard to get to. Sometimes it's up in an attic or down in a crawl space or behind some walls or a locker. Sometimes it can be very tricky. And as all these guys know, you could do the perfect job cleaning up, rebuilding, having it look better than ever did. The customer walks in, they have that smell. That's a problem, And so the fact that this is a machine that, like I said, 15 years we've been working in the same type of field. You plug it in, you turn it on, that odor is going to be eliminated. So it's not masked, it's not covered up, it's not, moved somewhere else. So the fact that it permanently 100% eliminates, it's a big deal. But then that allows the contractors to do their other work at the same time, because you can run this in occupied areas. And then what some guys do, which is, well, there's 2 parts. We have some contractors who just go after odor elimination. Like they will just go to realtors or hotels or property managers, and they'll just give flat rates. Hey, for X number of dollars, we're going to come in and we're going to remove this cigarette smell, this marijuana smell, this, musty smell. And that's a big deal, for that kind of niche little group, like, for example, realtors, trying to sell a $500,000 home, but it's got, cigarette smell in it. That's tough. My wife wouldn't buy it, like absolutely not. So having that kind of side business is really good. And then what happens, which is, I think, how it works well together for kind of creating not just profit, but kind of some increased business and a customer base, is I've seen these guys, they go in, especially with like the property managers, hotels, different, kind of bigger places like that, where they kind of get their foot in the door and they're able to help them with some of, like you said, like the smaller stuff that might not seem like a big deal. Even if it's only making them a few $1,000s, here and there, because they're doing these little projects on a hotel room or an apartment, a couple apartments in a building. But all of a sudden it's really working. They're making a little bit of money. They're building that relationship and that connection with them. All of a sudden, when that flood happens, when that storm comes through, when something major happens, a fire or something, bam, they get the call. So it's a good way for contractors to not just provide a solution that really solves a problem and makes them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, I feel like there's a lot of contractors that could really benefit from this adoption of thought of sometimes, especially in this business, right? There's this whole nurturing process that if done correctly, after several months, some cases even a few years, that's when it finally starts paying off dividends, right? That's when like the relationship really comes to fruition from a business standpoint. But sometimes there's this opportunity with the equipment that we currently have that we're still making money on, still making our life easier, that we can use that almost as a foot in the door, as a lead magnet, as a almost as an interview, if you will, right? Where you're just kind of trying out and saying, hey, let's go ahead and build this relationship. I know that you have this small little need. Maybe it's, a new apartment that, you had a tenant move out and he was a smoker or whatever the case may be. We can go ahead and install this thing for you, whatever. You see how great it is. It saves your maintenance staff time, money, and they probably didn't even have the skills to really be able to deal with that odor effectively. And yet here you are, kind of a knight in shining armor. You're taking care of them. You're not charging them an arm and a leg for it. They feel like they've won, but the relationship is being built over time. You do that sooner or later. You're right. There's going to be a flood. There's going to be a mold issue that, God forbid, maybe there's a fire, right? Now you've already got that relationship built off of performance, right? It's not like, hey, I kind of like you. You seem like you're a good talker. It's like, no, no, no. You were already there and you're a proven winner. You're receptive. You put the relationship in front of profitability. And these are, things that I think are getting lost with some contractors, not all, especially not the dominators out there, because you're listening to the show, so you're better than everybody else. But like, for a lot of the smaller contractors out there, they're like, look, if there's no money involved or, my regular billing rate, if that's not involved, then I really don't want any part of it. But they're really missing the bigger picture. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree with that. That's kind of been just almost like my personal view over the years in life, but particularly as it relates to business, sales, anything in that arena. I always think that sometimes we get too, and a lot of it's, current day technology and social media and instant gratification, right? So sometimes we get too narrow focus on short term, immediate solutions. Hey, what am I going to make on that job? Like that one right there. What am I going to make? Oh, we're only going to make this much. Yeah, right now. What are we going to put in our bank? And I strongly believe that sometimes if we can get past, now those are important, right? I mean, you got to pay the bills and make some money and keep the business going, of course. But sometimes if we can just look a little bit more long term, bigger picture, kind of open it up a little bit where it's like, hey, we're doing the right thing for these people. And one of the things that I've always thought is important really in any business, but it's like listening to your customers, right? Listening to your clients. What is it that they want? What are they looking for? How can I provide to them and help them and give them what they need and what they want? And sometimes it might be those little projects, those little, call-ins to somebody to work with them on the small stuff. And you might not hear from, like you said, for a couple years. But then all of a sudden, when you build those relationships, you've done the right things, you've listened to them, you've worked with them, and you've kind of built it up over time. That's going to pay off in the long term, in my opinion. I've seen it in my own personal life. I've seen it, in this sales in this industry. You look at some of these contractors out there, and they've done a phenomenal job just building that base, that structure. And when they can really put that together by doing all those little tiny steps, all of a sudden now, they look back 5 years, 10 years ago and see how much they've grown and how much they've built. It really does pay off. And, I still, like you said, marketing relationships, because they like the person, they talk nice. And, going in and talking to people is always good. Bringing them some coffee, a glass of, or a bottle of wine, take them out to dinner, all good things to help build that relationship. And I wouldn't not do that. It's a book that I read that I really like called The Go Giver, right? It's like giving things is always a good way to just kind of help people out, build relationships and show their importance. But being able to meet those needs, solve a problem, no matter how big or small it is in the short term, uh, like I said, build this relationship and pays off over the long term.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask you, because again, we're kind of talking about the psychology of business now, like outside of just the overall equipment, what are the top three things that you wish business owners in our arena were asking more? In other words, like, what are the top three questions? Like, if someone was just about to get into the business now, you're like, look, find the answers to these top three questions and you'll find success in your business. But before you go ahead and answer that, let's just take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. What's going on, Florida contractors and public adjusters? I've got something for you. And I want to introduce you to Pack on the Go. Pack on the Go really should be your go-to organization whenever you're talking about dealing with contents, pack outs, pack backs, contents restoration, etc. Here's the hard truth. A lot of us in the restoration arena don't want to turn away money. But the reality is a lot of restoration companies simply are not built for contents. They don't have the storage facilities. They don't have the expertise on how to properly handle contents, how to properly restore contents. And what ends up happening is just because you wanted to take on a deal, you end up spending more money and ultimately you have an unsatisfied customer. And that's where Pack on the Go has been an absolute amazing addition to our team in the way that we've done business with our restoration company and with other public adjusters that we've recommended over the years. Pack on the Go, it services the entire state of Florida, and more importantly, they have the expertise of over 20 years in the business. You can go ahead and have your customer and yourself track all of the inventory, 24/7 surveillance in their warehouses, and the list of benefits just goes on. Listen, you're a restorer, do what restorers do best, and that's get in, take care of the water mitigation, the mold, the fire and smoke, and leave the contents to the pros. If you're in the Florida area, reach out to Pack on the Go, the Contents Pro. Hey, Dominators, are you facing cash flow issues? Well, Inc. has your back with advanced funding. Qualifying contractors can receive working capital within 1 to 2 business days. So this way you can say goodbye to the burden of floating resources for materials as well as labor. Restore properties faster with the funds that you need. The cost? Simple. Just 1.95% of the claims check for the first 30 days, prorated daily thereon after, or you could opt for a flat rate of just 3.95% with uncertainty protection. Remember to use promo code DOMINATE and receive 50% off the one-time sign-up fee of $2.99 for InkPay, and then unlock the rest of Ink's innovative payment solutions. Start your journey at ink.com today. That's IINK.com, Inc.com, and use promo code DOMINATE. Are you dominating the insurance agent referral market? If you're not getting referrals from insurance agents, then let me tell you something. You need to speak to Gerry Edtl. Are you ready to grow? Can your business actually handle it? Well, Gerry Edtl is a specialist at referral revenue from insurance agents. He started way back in the 70s as a restoration technician, and 34 years later ended up as the national sales trainer for one of the largest restoration franchise companies in the good old US of A. And for the past 16 years, he's been helping restoration contractors succeed at creating long-term referral revenue from insurance agents. So schedule a call with Gerry today. Let him guide you through your growth process so that you don't grow yourself out of business. All you have to do is go to GerryEdtl.com/dominate. Again, that's Gerry, GerryEdtl.com/dominate. All right, and we're back. So before we went ahead and thanked all of our amazing sponsors, we were talking about the top 3 questions that entrepreneurs in our space should be asking if they wanted to be successful in business. What do you think those are?
Well, it's kind of like a little bit of what I just touched on. I think is really important. I think it's important in this industry, but outside of it as well. But you take a look at what contractors in this industry do, right? I mean, they're reaching out to homeowners and business owners. Something bad just happened. Hopefully, it's only like the one time in their life that this thing happened. So they're walking into something where they're heroes, right? They got to solve this problem and kind of nurture their client and make sure they get things back to how it used to be. And as quickly as possible with as little, negative effects to this whatever happened to this person. So I think it goes along with what I'd said, like listening, to the customer. So you ask them, hey, what is it? Find out what it is that they need, what it is that they want, right? So sometimes if we just walk in and just assume, hey, they want this or they want that, sometimes we might be going down the wrong road. So I think asking the customer, some of the stuff is black and white, blatantly obvious, right? It's like, okay, your house burned down, you want a new house. Okay, got it, right? Uh, yeah, so I'm walking in. I got water up to my knees. I guess you want me to remove that water, right? Okay, cool. But sometimes it's one of the quotes that I've always liked is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So sometimes if you can just right off the bat, just ask them some questions, and it just depends on the customer, what you're at, right? But just ask them some questions. Hey, what is it that's going on? What can I do to help you? Where is it that you're seeing an issue? And it's like I said, some of it's so blatantly obvious, but even just by asking those questions, just makes them feel like you actually care about what they're doing and how you can help them. And then, that'll help you steer you with what you can do to kind of solve their problem and get things back up. And maybe it's focusing on one thing more than another, or doing one thing first before you do something else. But asking those things I think is a big deal. Um, Somebody coming into the industry, somebody starting out, same thing, but asking other contractors. One thing that I try and make sure I keep fresh in my mind is that there are so many people out there that are mentors and people who like to educate and have experience and have all that knowledge. And so sometimes if you can find people who've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years or more, if you can find somebody like that to just ask some questions and help you walk through stuff, it's one thing to be really book smart and know all of the numbers and the science and the measurements and the different technologies, and being book smart's great, and that's really important. A lot of great educational classes and instruction and things like that out there, but there's nothing can touch, or we can read in a book something you could learn from a guy who's been doing this for 30 years, right? So he can give you some real experience. To me, that's wisdom, right? That's not something that you can just read in a book, in my opinion. So finding someone like that to ask questions to and to kind of help stuff that maybe is not so obvious, or things that they've learned over the years. So asking the clients, what it is that they need, how you can help them, asking other contractors, that kind of experience and knowledge that they can pass on. Ideally, be someone that you could build a relationship with. So, even a few years down the road, you can be bouncing ideas and work together. Hey man, call, you could be new 2 years in, but you could call the guy who's been doing it 30 years. Hey, look what I just found out. Look what happened. Look what I just, something. And you could work with each other on that. Those will be two questions. I'm not sure if I have a third necessarily, but I think those two would really help someone kick it off. Just from a business standpoint, making their clients happy, showing that you care, and then, to grow the business, finding someone who's done this for a while to really share that experience and wisdom. Yeah. So the questions I think are important for contractors. One, I think it's very important to listen to the client. So you ask them questions, hey, what is it that's going on? What is it you want me to do? You find out what their need is and what they're looking for. Obviously, some of the stuff is obvious, right? They got, a flood going up to your knees. You come in, there's water, there's a house burnt down or kitchen burned out. But one of my favorite quotes is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that's a really good way to kind of start getting in. I mean, think about it, right? You go into these projects, whether it's residential or commercial. I mean, they just had something disastrous happen. They've got a major issue. It's completely thrown off their life, their plan, their schedule. And you're kind of like the hero, right, to come in and kind of fix it and get it back as quickly as possible. So I think not treating this as so black and white, some things are pretty clear on how to do a project, but making sure you're asking those questions, showing that you care and listening to what they want to do. I think that's important. From a business viewpoint, I think it's important. Sometimes we get, day after day, weeks turn into months and months into years, and we start going down, multiple years. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, wait, where are we going? What are we doing? Where are we? What's important? And I think it's important for business owners to really, on a semi-regular basis, is ask yourself, hey, what's our goal? What are we hoping to achieve? Where are we taking this? Where are we going? And that can just be like in this evolving, changing type type goal and direction somewhat to a certain degree, which is why it's important to kind of keep asking that. Because as the business grows and builds and develops, sometimes plans can shift and change, or maybe you had a rough year, and you got to look at, hey, how do we navigate this a little different path, because this year was rough. We didn't have the same losses and projects that we did the previous year, and what do we need to do? So, kind of staying present with seeing and realizing what those goals are, I think will just kind of keep helping things kind of develop. And what, obviously having not just a client to ask, each client to ask the questions to, but I think if you're coming into the industry, or even if you're already here, having almost like a mentor, or like a partner or an associate, a relationship with another contractor, someone who's got the experience, 10, 20, 30 plus years, who's, what I always call that experience being wisdom, right? There's a lot of book smart, a lot of important things. We have so many good classes in the industry, and instructors in the industry, education stuff. All those are super important and needed, but you can't really learn in a book what somebody's learned over 30 years in the field, doing this. And so I think finding those relationships, being open to having those conversations to kind of help each other out, I think is really, really important. And then the last thing, which is a little bit different direction on it, but it's always making sure. This is kind of me personally, almost like I'm talking to myself, reminding myself, but always having that important work-life balance, right? Sometimes if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, especially in this industry, right? It's almost like we're working 24/7. The pipe doesn't explode 9 to 5 only. So or on Monday through Friday.
Does it ever, right? It seems like it's always like after hours, or it's like, or you go to enough people's homes, right? It's like, well, when did this happen? It was like, well, it happened when I was on vacation, or it happened as soon as I left for work. It never happens, during those 9 to 5 perfect hours. It just never happens that way.
Never. It's like it's if business is going slow, my advice is just wait till the next holiday. Halloween coming up, you're gonna have a problem. Thanksgiving coming up, oh, that's what Just wait. If you're going, if you're worried about, just go out of town. I guarantee something will happen when you get back. So, but no, really though, having just making sure, not only is it making sure the business has some good goals and some evolving, just growing directions and purpose and the goals for the business, but also individually. Sometimes we need to take a step back and not get too caught up in work, but take a look at family, or health and fitness and those types of things. Sometimes we don't want to be too overwhelmed and over focused in one area. I think making sure that we're kind of giving ourselves a little check to make sure that we're balancing things out, so you don't, just like how you wouldn't want the business to suffer because you're not giving it time and attention and developing that. Same thing with your health, your fitness, your family. You don't want any of that to suffer either. So I think if you look at those things, I think you're probably headed in the right directions.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so difficult, right? That whole work-life balance thing. And there's Russell Brunson, which is the co-founder of ClickFunnels, which is a software that I absolutely love and use consistently. He's spoken about this whole work-life balance thing. And it's like, you're never going to have like perfect work-life balance. Or what you're going to have are times of extreme imbalance in one way or another. And as an entrepreneur, your game, right, like your priority in this game is to take advantages of those massive swings, because we've all had weeks, or in some cases months, where it's like nose to the grindstone, nothing gets in our way, we just have to service one client after another. But then there's always like this kind of moment of peace. And where a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in our industry, I feel kind of get burnt out, is when they do have that little moment of peace, they don't even know what to do with themselves. Well, that's like that moment where it's like, okay, well, you pushed so hard at work. Now it's time to recalibrate and spend some time on yourself, spend some time in your family, because that season is coming back, right? Where you're going to be busy again nonstop, and taking advantage of that. So like that whole perfect, you work 9 to 5 and everything is happy, and then you get your workout in and you do all these things. For a lot of us, and particularly in this industry, because it's an emergency response business, it's very, very difficult. But just having that mental checkpoint to be like, okay, this is a season, currently in balance, I know, but that means that I have, I got to keep score on the opposite side. Like, how much time do I need to dedicate later on down the road to myself, to my family, to make up, with the, even just having a simple conversation with a friend, right? Just picking up the phone and saying, hey, what's going on, buddy? It's been a while, but nose to the grindstone. What's new? Sometimes that's really all that we need. And as an entrepreneur, it's difficult sometimes, right? Because it's kind of lonely at the top, and we're all at the top of our own little island, if you will. And that kind of ties back into what you were talking about finding mentors and asking questions and being more involved. I actually did a post on LinkedIn, which I thought was a little funny, which is, I think they titled it like, if you find yourself getting butthurt quite often, it's because you're not coachable. And that's something in our industry that in every industry that happens quite a bit. It's, if you're not asking questions, you're going to beat your head against a concrete wall that somebody else has already figured out how to do it faster, more effectively, in a more economical fashion. It's just the people are already out there. And a lot of these people, especially in our industry, are willing and happy to offer that information, but like, oh yeah, great, you're new in the industry, or hey, you've been in the industry for 10 years, you've been doing it this way. I see that you're coachable, you want to learn, you want something better. Let me go ahead and help you. Like, that's the beauty about most of the people in our industry. And I think that if you kind of indoctrinate like all of those thoughts, I think that you're really on a good path to having a successful business and hopefully a fairly happy life, right? At the end of the day, it's kind of what we all shoot for. So let's tie back into your the technology and just the overall equipment. Again, a lot of people I know are apprehensive. They're kind of set in their ways. They're like, hey, look, I have this piece of equipment. I have this piece of equipment. I have this piece of equipment. Like, why should I go ahead and now start to add on yet another piece of technology to to my on all of my fleets? What's your response to that? Like, how are you guys like really getting your message across to contractors and be like, hey, look, this is why you need to take a real long, hard look at this as an investment on something that's going to give you that ROI that you've been wanting?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it, is what we have brought into this is the fact that for 15 years, we've been working almost exclusively in this industry. Little, other side industries here and there with this type of technology, but it's been 15 years of listening to what the contractors want, listening to what's important to them, what would make it easier to use, what the problems they come across, and how they need to solve these odor issues. And we've really put all of that into these aerobotics machines. So you have this combination of the 4 UVC lamps, extremely powerful. There's a whole lot more to it that most people don't care about, but it's the dwell time in the chamber, it's the fan speed going through it, it's how far is the air from the UVC lamp itself. It can't be too far away. I mean, there's an extension to the chamber inside. There's all those types of things. But at the end of the day, what it means is that this thing is producing the radicals and oxidants that are extremely, extremely effective. So on one side, you have a technology that absolutely eliminates all odor. And that just, if anything, gives people the peace of mind that something that could be a little challenging, they know it's being taken care of. And sometimes they don't really, what's funny is we don't really ever ask people to believe it or to trust us or to read a science paper. It's like, just try it out, like that backs it up more than anything. Just put the thing on a job. There you go. Try it. Then you've got the filtration in the front, which I've said, like always have said, that they work so well together. And so having one machine to carry on to a project instead of a couple machines, it just makes it easier, faster, less expensive. But then the billing for it, like I said, we're working on that, but the billing could be very powerful because you've got a scrubber, you've got the fan, you've got the UVC hydroxyl all into this machine. And what I think, going back to what we said before about sometimes the small stuff, really does matter. But we're kind of proud that we built into this really what people have been asking for. So like we didn't just put wheels, we didn't just put like tiny wheels. I mean, we put like big, strong wheels that you could roll over a curb, or the power cords that are laying down, or things like that. The handle comes in and out, so it retracts away when so you don't have to look at it, but then when it's ready, it pulls out. Now you got a handle on wheels like you'd pull a suitcase. It's got 3 handles on it to pick the machine up, like you'd pick up like a big cooler. The 2 GFCI outlets, because the machine only draws just under 5 amps. So you got plenty of room to daisy chain either more aerobotics machines or other technology, other machines, air movers or low profile, whatever you can run off of that. The chamber of the machine that has the UVC lamps inside, usually those are almost impossible to get to with other technologies. We designed it so we have 4 latches that unclip, and the whole chamber literally pulls out of the machine, and you can put it on your desk. So much better. It's so easy to get to the lamps, to clean them, to wipe everything down, to replace them when they're needing to be replaced. We've got the adjustable fan speed up. Well, no, number one, the fan's built into it. The 700 CFM fan is awesome. We've got dual exhaust on both sides, so it goes out 2 directions, but we also let you cap one side if you just want to go in one way. We built the outtake so you can put lay flat on it. What else have we done? I mean, the stackability on it is good. So, and the 25-foot power cord, like you said, so you got a 6-foot power cord. Maybe you don't think much of it. No, when you're on these jobs, that thing matters.
Oh yeah, it matters, right? It definitely matters. Yeah, and that's what I love, man. Is sometimes it's like sometimes you see people that are breaking into a market and they don't really have the field knowledge of, or even speaking to the pros in the industry, and they think that they know what the industry needs, but they really don't, right? And what I love about what you guys have created is that you've really gone through this with a fine-tooth comb, right? You've thought through the entire process, not only the technology that goes into this equipment, and then how to couple that technology. Because so again, like this whole lighting thing, right? The UV lights, like I took a deep dive into what makes a powerful UV light. At what point does it start losing effectiveness away from the bulb? These are all factors, right? And there's a lot of companies out there that are selling, quote unquote, a similar solution. But when you really get down into the weeds, into the science, and you're like, well, wait, there's no way that this is effective because the science just doesn't match up. So not only have you taken the science aspect and be like, okay, how do we really make this something functional? But then you've also taken the functionality of just the worker, right? The people that are going to be in the field to think about, the handles, the quality of the wheels, the quality of the build, how you're going to get to the components that are so important. And these are things that, again, there's not a specific line in your P&L when you're looking at this stuff, right? But effectiveness, that's profit, right? If you can do something, in a fraction of the time and still get the same amount of money, well, you just gave yourself a nice little pay raise there, especially when you multiply that over, God knows how many job sites it is that, you have this equipment on. It adds up quickly. So the fact that you guys have really thought through this entire process is, again, something only industry experts would understand.
In the industry, it's not like we're just on the manufacturing, distributions kind of sales side. I have learned a lot, not just from, I've been to classes and know a lot of the instructors and have given a lot myself just specifically on hydroxyl and odor removal. But I have been to, I don't even know how many, mainly large losses, but even smaller projects. But shoot, when California had their fires, I was out there for a couple of weeks. I was working with some of the big players out on their jobs, helping them set up and showing them where to place them and how to, how many you need and what to do with them, how to run them. And, it was out there for at least a couple of weeks up in Northern California. But then, taking a red eye flight to a government building in Madison, going to a big Costco down in Miami after, a week before Christmas for a huge fire. And imagine the Costco being burnt, right before Christmas time. We're doing $1 million a day. So I really, really enjoy being on these projects, and it's not like I didn't do the work. I didn't bill them. I was just working with the contractor to kind of help them through this. But you learn so much, and so yeah, I think that combination of really understanding the science and how the machine can really, really work, and not just kind of be pretty good or do most of the stuff, it's extremely effective. But then all the other stuff on the other side, it's almost like we were in this field learning and listening to put together, people see it, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, this and this, I think they're happy with it. So we're excited about it.
All right. So closing remarks for some of the things that maybe I didn't ask that I should have asked that you think that would be really important for contractors to know when it comes down to this kind of stuff. What are your closing remarks? What are your closing thoughts? What do you think that more contractors should know about the overall product and adding this to their toolkit?
What's nice, I think we really did touch on everything. I think the questions were great. I think, I kind of explained kind of the key points to what makes this technology different and kind of needed in the industry and really solves a lot of problems and fills a lot of holes. I just always recommend to people, if they ever have any questions, I don't care if it's about science or if it's about something boring or if it's about, the build of the machine, anything at all. I'm always open and enjoy talking to people with their questions. This is the type of thing where we have always, because we are so strongly believe and know what we do, we're always the type that says, hey, don't listen to anything that we say, just give it a try type thing, because we know what it does and how it works. And sometimes, as much as you can talk about something, until you've used it in the field and like seen and smelt and dealt with it yourself, you don't really appreciate and understand what it's capable of. So, I'm always open to questions, training sessions. I love, one of the things, it's we're not just a, hey, buy our machine, thank you, see you later. We run training classes, free training classes. So, you get the machines into your shop. Maybe it's a Monday morning, you have the group together, 8 a.m. Hey guys, we're going to do a 15-20-minute training session on how to use this machine, how to clean it. We've got, videos and instruction material on that. So we're a lot more than just, hey, write us a check, see you later. We've invested a whole lot. We bring a whole lot more into this. So I would always encourage people just to reach out to us with any questions, any ideas, or anything like that. We're here.
That's awesome. And for those dominators out there that want to go ahead and get in contact, check out the equipment, maybe even place an order, where should they go online to do so?
So the best is just our website, airbotics.com. It's AIRBOTX.com. And, that's kind of the easiest spot to go to. We've got emails and phone numbers and information on there. But yeah.
Awesome. And then what I'm going to do for all those dominators out there that are maybe driving to or from a job site, you don't want to pull over and jot that down, I am going to leave links in the video description as well as in the show notes below. Make sure that you go ahead and check out everything that they have to offer. Again, make sure that you reach out to Tom. They're an open book. They're here to help. And again, just you can't beat the overall experience and the amount of science that has gone into making our jobs as restoration contractors that much easier and more effective, and also while impacting the customer, because even though your customers may not understand the technology and what you're using, even though you can go ahead and try to explain it to them, the one thing that they will always understand is that feeling, that freshness, that smell, how they feel when they walk back into their home. And everybody has experienced the smell of quote unquote construction smell, having opened walls, old wood, things like that. And even though you may have done a remediation, maybe you did just a simple water mitigation, there's a stark difference between an open wall and when customers walk in there and when they have this nice, clean, fresh smell that can be offered by this kind of equipment. So definitely make sure that you check them out in the video description below. Tom, thank you so much once again for taking your time out of your day to let everybody know about what you guys are doing in the industry. And as always, Dominator, hustle, hack, dominate. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, your #1 resource for tips, tricks, and hacks to help your business grow. Subscribe to our channel and follow us for more Restoration Domination. And follow our host at Rico Garcia Jr. on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.